Namaste, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeanette, and I am a high vibrational being, and I'm back with another message. No, not a message. I'm going to continue to read from the book, Napoleon Hill. You can't see me, so dark. Dark, but anyway, you don't need to see me. What you need to do is listen to what I am going to read. So, hope everybody enjoyed their week or enjoying their week. And I'm going to start off from where I left off. Remember, this is Napoleon Dynamite. Having an energy, I feel like it's a channeling message from this dark being. Question. Is it not taking unfair advantage of a human being by contaminating his mind before he becomes into full possession of it? Everything is fair that I can, and the answer is everything is fair that I can use to further my ends. I have no foolish limitations of right and wrong. Might is right with me. I use every known human weakness to gain and keep control of the human mind. Question. I understand your devilish nature. Now let us get back to further discussion of your methods of inducing people to drift to hell here on earth. From your confession, I see that you take charge of children while their minds are young and pliable. Tell me more of how you use parents, teachers, and religious leaders to ensnare people into drifting. One of my favorite tricks is to coordinate the efforts of parents and religious instructors. So they work together in helping me control the children's power to think for themselves. I use many religious instructors to undermine the courage and power of independent thought of children by teaching them to fear me. But I use parents to lay the religious leaders in this great work of mine. That's why we always have to go in and get the message from spirit when we are old enough to understand, because there's a lot of people out here who are tricksters and they don't speak the truth. Sorry. Okay. How do parents help religious leaders destroy their children's power to think for themselves? I never heard of such a monstrosity. I accomplished this through a very clever trick. I caused the parents to teach their children to believe as the parents do in connections with religion, politics, marriage, and other important subjects. In this way, as you can see, when I gain control of the mind of a person, I can easily perpetuate the control by causing that person to help me fasten it upon the minds of his offsprings. In other ways, question. In what other ways do you use parents to convert children into drifters? Oops, excuse me. Ooh, sorry. Sorry. It's too close. I really don't. Answer. I cause children to become drifters by following the example of their parents, most of whom I have already taken over and bond eternally to my cause. In some parts of the world, I gained mastery over children's minds and subdued, and I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. May this demonic entity may never take any control of any children's mind and subdue their willpower in exactly the same way that men break and subdue animals of lower intelligence. It makes no difference to me how a child's will is subdued as long as it fears something. I will enter its mind through that fear and limit the child's power to think independently. The devil will enter a child's mind through fear and then limit the child's power to think independently. I can remember the many religious leaders I have known in the past and instantly divide them between fear-based instructors and faith-based instructors. In fact, I still get a chill from reliving the fire and brimstone of some of the fear-based sermons I heard as a child. In contrast, I remember the uplifted feelings of hope and courage from the faith-based sermons. Hill's words of wisdom certainly rings true for me. Does fear then paralyze independent thoughts? Question. It seems that you go out of your way to keep people from thinking. Answer. Yes. Accurate thoughts is death to me. I cannot exist in the minds of those who think accurately. Ding. I do not mind people thinking as long as they think in terms of fear. No fear here. Discouragement, hopelessness, and destructiveness. When they begin to think in constructive terms of faith, courage, hope, definiteness of purpose, they immediately become allies of my opposition and are therefore lost to me. Question. Am I beginning to understand how you gain control of the minds of children through the help of their parents and religious instructors? But I do not see how the school teachers help you in this damnable work. Answer. School teachers help me gain control of the minds of children, not so much by what they teach the children as because of what they do not teach them. The entire public school system is so administered that it helps my cause by teaching children almost everything except how to use their own minds and think independently. Isn't that something? So the schools don't teach the children how to use their own minds. Red flag. I live in fear that someday some courageous person will reverse the present system of school teaching and deal my cause as a death blow by allowing the students to become instructors, using those who now serve as teachers only as guides to help the children establish ways and means of developing their own minds from within. When that time comes, the school teachers will no longer belong to my staff. Here is the essence of Hill's critique of public education written in 1938. Do you agree with him? Think of young children during kindergarten and first grade. They are enthusiastic and volunteer everything, raising their hands and excited to learn. Now fast forward 10 years and think about those same children as high school students. The ones sitting in the back of the class, never making eye contact with adults and absolutely never volunteering or asking a question. They have disengaged from the learning process. What happened to these children? 10 years of schooling, they perceive that to make an error will subject them to ridicule and scorn. So they cease to participate in order to protect themselves. They are taught that the solutions to all problems and conflicts lie not in their own hands, but in the hands and minds of the teacher, the representative of the authorities. To act independently in the face of conflict brings swift rebuke and reprisal from the teacher. The children are thus encouraged from independent thought and indoctrinated with the concept that they are incapable of resolving their own problems. While there are many excellent teachers, Hill's critique seems validated by the state of education today. If you agree with Hill, what do you think we can do about it? One thing we should do is to seek out those teachers and schools who encourage independent thoughts in their students and applaud them for their courage. Always encourage your kids. Always never put fear in your kids' lives. Always be a support system for your children. Listen to your children. Question. I was under the impression that the purpose of all schooling was to help children to think. That may be the purpose of schooling, but the system in most of the schools of the world does not carry out the purpose. School children are not taught to develop and use their minds, but to adopt and use the thought of others. This sort of schooling destroys the capacity for independent thought, except in a few rare cases where children rely so definitively upon their own willpower that they refuse to allow others to do their thinking. Accurate thought is the business of my opposition, not mine. Question. What relationship, if any, has your opposition with homes and churches and schools? Your reply to this question should be interesting. Here is where I make use of some of my clever tricks. I cause it to appear. Oh, this is the answer. Here's where I make use of some of my clever tricks. I cause it to appear that everything done by the parents, the school teachers, and the religious instructors is being done by my opposition. This diverts attention from me while I manipulate the minds of the young. When religious instructors try to teach children the virtues of my opposition, they generally do so by frightening them with my name. That is all I ask of them. I kindle the flame of fear into proportions which destroys the child's power to think accurately. In the public school, the teachers further my case by keeping the children so busy cramming non-essential information into their minds. They have no opportunity to think accurately or to analyze correctly the things their instructors teach them. Question. Do you claim for your cause all those who are bound by the habit of drifting? Answer, no. Drifting is only one of my tricks through which I take over the power of independent thought. Before a drifter becomes my permanent property, I must lead him on and ensnare him with another trick. Sounds very familiar. We all get tricked by people in our lives. They portray to be one thing, but in the other hand, they are something else. They they cheat, they steal, they rob, they manipulate. They try to control people's minds, people's relationships, people's money, people's homes. These are the drifters. Question: do you mean you have a method by which you cause people to drift so far away from self-determination that they can never save themselves? Answer: yes, a definite method, and it is so effective it never fails. Question: do I understand you claim your method is so powerful your opposition cannot reclaim those whom you have permanently ensnared through drifting? Answer: I claim just that. Do you think I would control so many? Do you think I would control so many people if my opposition could prevent me? Nothing can stop me from controlling people except people themselves. Listen, people, you are the power. You have the power to control this entity from entering your mind. You have the power to dispel all negative thoughts, all negative behaviors, all darkness from your life. You have the power to think that you are a divine being who is able to create a life for yourself and your children and never be without. Question: go ahead and tell me more of the methods by which you cause people to drift to hell with you. Answer: I cause people to drift on every subject through which I can control independent thought and action. Take the subject of health. For example, I cause most people to eat too much food and the wrong sort of food. This leads to indigestion and destroys the power of accurate thought. Listen, people. If the public schools and churches taught children more about proper eating, they might cause irreparable damage. Sugar, soda, a lot of fried foods, all these fried places where all these fast places to eat. Be careful with the food that you are giving your children. Yet alone, you're feeding yourself because you are your children's leaders and they look up to you. Marriage. This is his answer. Another way is marriage. I cause men and women to drift into marriage without plan or purpose, designed to convert their relationship into harmony. Many people here got married for the wrong reason. Many people have been manipulated to get into relationships that is not healthy for them. Here's one of the most effective methods of converting people into the habit of drifting. I cause married people to be bickers and nag one another over money matters. I cause them to quarrel over the bringing up their children. I engage them in unpleasant controversies over their intimate relationships and in disagreements over friends and social activities. I keep them so busy finding faults with one another that they never have time to do anything else long enough to break the habit of drifting. Because they're so occupied in the drama That they don't take time out to just sit with themselves and just go within and find out what is going on with our relationship. What do we need to work on? What do I need to work on? So this, you don't have that time because you're so busy fighting with one another. It just takes so much energy out of you that you're so consumed every single day. Being in a relationship that is so toxic. We need to make things better. We need to make changes in how we deal with one another. Friends, family, lovers, whatever. We need to learn how to be peaceful. If the relationship don't work, then you move on out. Take time for yourself. Heal. Not become violent towards one another. That doesn't work. Occupation. I teach people to become drifters by causing them to drift out of school into the first job they can't find, the first job they can find, with no definite aim or purpose except to make a living. This is how people think. I have to get something quickly in order to make a living. I need to survive. Through this trick, I keep millions of people in fear of poverty of their lives. Through this fear, I lead them slowly but surely onward until they reach the point beyond which no individual ever has broken the drifting habit. Another one, savings. I cause people to spend freely and to save sporadically or not at all until I take complete control of them through their fear of poverty. Environment. I cause people to drift into inharmonious and unpleasant environments in the home, in their places of occupation, in their relationships with relatives and acquaintances, and to remain there until I claim them through the habit of drifting. Grabs you and takes control of you while you guys are bickering and arguing and fighting over things that makes no sense, that is not of your highest good, and is all an illusion, and is being played out in your life. This is how this dark entity has control of your vessel and your mind. Dominating thoughts. I cause people to drift into habits of thinking negative thoughts. This leads to negative acts and involves people in controversies and fills their minds with fear, thus paving the way for me to enter and control their minds. When I move in, I do so by appealing to people through negative thoughts which they believe to be their own. I plant the seeds of negative thoughts in their mind of people through the pulpit, the newspaper, the moving pictures, the TV, the radio, all other popular methods, social media that is now in this time, social media. I cause people to allow me to do their thinking for them because they are too lazy and too indifferent to think for themselves. This dark entity is talking so negative of you, and you are the most powerful being. And you're allowing these negative thoughts to take control of your mind. You come from a divine Father, a divine creator. You don't need to subject yourself, your family, your friends, anybody to be treated so unhumane. Question. I conclude what you say, that drifting and procrastinations are the same. Is that true? Answer. Yes, that is correct. Any habit which causes one to procrastinate, to put off reaching a definite decision, leads to the habit of drifting. Says the devil, I cause people to allow me to do their thinking for them because they are too lazy and too indifferent to think for themselves. Is that who you want people to think that you are, that you're too lazy? Laziness, indifference, and procrastinations equal drifting. This describes a true drifter as defined by Hill. Since I have been a true procrastinator for most of my life, this hits a little too close to home for me. I like to use the excuse that I work best under pressure, but that is all it is, an excuse for why I procrastinate. Can you think of examples in your own life when laziness and indifference led you off your path to success? When opportunity slipped through your fingers because you were too slow to seize it in time? Question. Is the man creature is man the only creature who drifts? Answer. Yes. All other creatures move in response to definite laws of nature. Man only defines nature laws and drifts when he wills. Everything outside the mind of a man is controlled by my opposition. By law, so definite that drifting is impossible. I control the minds of men slowly because of their habit of drifting, which is the only way of saying that I control the minds of men because they neglect or refuse the control and use of their own minds. This is getting to be question. This is getting to be pretty deep stuff for a mere human being. Let us get back to the discussion of something less abstract. Please tell me how this drifting habit affects people in the everyday walks of life, and tell me in terms the average person can understand. Answer. I would prefer to keep this interview up among the stars. Question. No doubt you would. That would save you from being exposed. But let us come back to earth. Tell me now what drifting is doing to us as a nation here in the United States. Answer. Frankly, I may as well tell you that I hate the United States, as only the devil can hate. Question. That is interesting. What is the cause of the hatred? Answer. The cause was born on July 4th, 1776, when 56 men signed a document which destroyed my chances of controlling the nation. You know that document of Declaration of Independence? Had it not been for the influence of that damnable document, I would now have a dictator running the country, and I would stop this right to free speech and independent thought that is threatening my rule on earth. This sounds so familiar because this sounds like we're back in that state where control of libraries being closed, freedom of speech has been been trying to be taken away from us. But we rebuke that because he has no power. Question: am I to understand from what you say that the nations controlled by self-appointed dictators belong in your camp? Answer: there are no self-appointed dictators. I appoint them all. Moreover, I manipulate them and direct them in their work. Nations run by my dictators know what they want and take it by force. Look what I have done through Mussolini in Italy. Look what I am doing through Hitler in Germany. Look what I am doing through Stalin in Russia. My dictators run those nations for me because the people have subdued the habit of drifting. My dictators do no drifting. That is why they rule for me the millions of people under their control. Question: what would happen if Mussolini, Stalin, and Hitler turned traitor and disavowed you and your rule? Answer: that will not happen because I have them too well bribed. I am paying each of them with the sop of his own vanity by making him believe he is acting on his own account. That is another trick of mine. The devil tricks his tricksters to think that they're in control, but they're not in control. They're being controlled themselves. Question: let us come back to the United States and learn something that you are doing to convert people into the habit of drifting. Answer: right now I am paving the way for a dictatorship by vowing the seeds of fear and uncertainty in the minds of people. Question: through whom you are carrying on your work? Answer: mainly the president. Mainly the president. Answer. Question again: through whom are you carrying out on your work? Answer: mainly through the president. I am destroying his influence with the people by causing him to drift on the questions of a working agreement between employers and their employees. If I can induce him to drift for another year, he will be so thorough discredited. I can't hand over the country to a dictator. If the president continues to drift, I will paralyze personal freedom in the United States just as I destroyed it in Spain, Italy, Germany, and England. In 1938, when Hill was writing this manuscript, the president was Franklin D. Roosevelt. Are the devil's comments applicable today? Do you think Hill might write the same words today as he wrote them 70 years ago? I say yes. But I say that the plan that this dark entity he has no plan because the people are waking up and they are taking control of their own minds and they are making decisions from themselves, and I pray that the leaders wake up, that God puts his hands over those who are sleeping and wake them up, shake them to their core so that they can see that they are very divine beings, that they are beautiful, that they could create a world without so much violence. They don't have to have any kind of WAR because everything is, we're able to bring into solution rather than chaos. Question. What you say leads me to the conclusion that drifting is a weakness, which inevitably ends in failure, whether among individuals or nations. Is that your claim? Answer. Drifting is the most common cause of failure in every walk of life. I can control anyone whom I can induce to form the habit of drifting on any subject. The reason for this is twofold. First, the drifter is just so much putty in my hands to be molded into whatever patterns I choose, because drifting destroys the power of individual initiative. Second, the drifter cannot get help from my opposition because the opposition is not attracted to anything so soft and useless. Question. Is that why few people are wealthy while the majority of people are poor? Answer. That is exactly the reason. Poverty, like physical illness, is a contagious disease. You'll find it always among the drifters, never among those who know what they want and are determined to get just that. It may seem something to you when I call your attention to the fact that the non-drifters, whom I do not control, and those who possess most of the wealth of the world happen to be the same people. Question. I have always understood that money was the root of all evil, that the poor and the meek would inherit the earth while the wealthy would pass into their hands. What have you to say of that claim? Answer. Men who know how to get the material things of life generally know how to keep it out of the hands of the devil as well. The ability to acquire things is contagious. Drifters acquire nothing except that which is no one else wants. Drifters acquire nothing except that which no one else wants. If more people had definite aims and stronger desires for material and spiritual richness, I would have fewer victims. The actual verse of the Bible talks about the love of money, not money itself. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. 1 Timothy 6:10. Question. I assume from what you say that you do not claim fellowship with the industrial leaders. Evidently, they are not friends of yours. Answer. A friend of mine, I tell you, that sort of friend of mine, they have belted the entire country with good roads, thus bringing into close communion the people of both cities and countries. They have converted ores into steel, which they have built the skeletons of skyscrapers. They have harnessed electrical power and converted it into thousands of uses, all designed to give man time to think. They have provided through the automobile personal transportation the humblest citizens, thus giving to everyone the freedom of travel. They have provided every home with instantaneous news of what is happening in all parts of the world through the aid of the radio. And now television, smartphones, satellites, and internet. They have reared libraries into every city, town, hamlet, and filled them with books, giving to all who read a complete outline of the most useful knowledge mankind has gathered from his experiences. They have given the humblest citizens the right to express his own opinion on any subject, anytime, anywhere, without fear of molestation. And they have seen that it is that every citizen may help make his own laws, levy was his own taxes, and manage his own country through the ballot. These are some of the things that the industrial leaders have done to give every citizen the privilege of becoming a non-drifter. Do you think these men have helped my cause? Question. Who are some of the present-day non-drifters whom you have no control? Answer. I have control over no non-drifter, present or past. I control the weak, not those who think for themselves. Strengthen your minds, people. Question. Go ahead and describe the typical drifter. Give your description point by point so I can recognize a drifter when I see him. Answer. The first thing you will notice about a drifter is his total lack of major purpose in life. He will be conspicuous by his lack of confidence. That means he has no self-esteem. He don't even know his worth. He or she doesn't know their worth. He will never accomplish anything requiring thoughts and effort. Doesn't think for themselves. Doesn't take time out to sit. He spends all he earns and more too if he can get credit. Credit cards are very, very evil as well. He will be sick or ailing from some real or imaginary cause and calling to high heavens if he suffers the physical pain. He will have little to no imagination. He will lack the enthusiasm and initiative to begin anything he is not forced to undertake. And he will plainly express his weakness by taking the line of less resistance whenever he can do so. He will be ill-tempered and lacking in control over his emotions. His personality will be without magnetism, and it will not attract other people. He will have opinions on everything but accurate knowledge of nothing. He may be jack of all trades, but good at none. He will neglect to cooperate with those around him, even those whom he must depend for food and shelter. He will make the same mistakes over and over again, never profiting by failure. He will be narrow-minded and intolerant of all subjects, ready to crucify those who may disagree with him. He will expect everything of others, but be willing to give little or nothing in return. Sound like people, you know? He may begin many things, but he will complete nothing. He will be loud in his condemnations of his government, but he will never tell you definitely how it can be improved. Come on, leaders of the world. This world could be a better place. You gotta let go and be a free-minded, open person and believe that change can be done. He will never reach decisions on anything if he can avoid it. And if he is forced to decide, he will reverse himself at the first opportunity. He will eat too much and exercise too little. He will take a drink of liquor if someone else will pay for it. He will gamble if he can't do it on the cuff. He will criticize others who are succeeding in their chosen calling. In brief, the drifters will work harder to get out of thinking than most other work in earning a good living. He will tell a lie rather than admit his ignorance on any subject. If he works for others, he will criticize them for their backs and flatter them to their face. So he will work for others, he will criticize them to their backs, talk about them, but then in their face, he's another person. Flatter them. Question. You have given some graphic descriptions of the drifter. Please now describe the non-drifter so that I may recognize him on sight. Answer. The first sign of a non-drifter is this. He's always engaged in doing something definite through some well-organized plan which is definite. He has a major goal in his life toward which he's always working, and minor goals of all which led towards the central scheme. The tone of his voice, the quickness of his steps, the sparkle in his eyes, the quickness of his decision clearly marks him as a person who knows exactly what he wants and is determined to get it, no matter how long it takes or what price he must pay. If you ask him a question, he gives you a direct answer and never falls back on invasions or resorts to subterfuge. He extends many favors to others, but accepts favors sporadically or not at all. He will be found up front, whether he is playing a game or fighting a war. If he does not know the answer, he will say so frankly. He has a good memory, never offers an alibi for his shortcomings. He never blames others for his mistakes, no matter if they deserve the blame. He used to be known as a go-getter, but in the modern time, he is called a go-giver. You will find him running the biggest business in town, living on the best street, driving the best automobile, and making his presence felt wherever he happens to be. He is an inspiration to all who come into contact with his mind. The major distinguishing features of a non-drifter is this. He has a mind of his own and uses it for all purposes. The non-drifter has a mind of his own and uses it for all purposes. Can you think of someone you know who fits this description? Is that person a non-drifter? Question. Is the non-drifter born with some mental, physical, spiritual advantage not available to the drifter? Answer. No. The major difference between the drifter and the non-drifter is something equally available to both. It is simply the prerogative right of each to use his own mind and to think for himself. We are all the same. We are all able to accomplish our dreams, our goals, our aspirations. Stop thinking that you are less than and know how valuable you are. And know how beautiful you are. Stop letting people dictate to you that you're different. So this non-drifter is supposed to give, is he? I'm sorry. What brief message would you send to the typical drifter if you wish to cure him of his evil habits? Answer. I would admonish him to wake up and give. Question. Give what? Some sort of service useful to as many people as possible. Question. So the non-drifter is supposed to give, is he? Answer. Yes. He expects to get it, and he must give before he gets. Question. Some people doubt that you exist. Answer: I wouldn't worry about that if I were you. Those who are ready to be converted from the habit of drifting will recognize the authenticity of this interview by its soundness of counsel. The others are not worth the trouble it would take to convert them. Question: why do you not try to stop me from publishing this confession I am wringing from you? Answer: because that would be the surest of all ways to guarantee you will publish it. I have a better plan than trying to suppress publications of my confession. I will urge you to go ahead with the publication, then sit back and watch you suffer. When some of the faithful drifters begin to make things hot for you, I will not need to deny your story. My followers will do that for me, as if they don't. See if they don't. Knowing that indeed this book was not published for more than 70 years, Hill wrote these words. I am intrigued and anxious to learn what else he will reveal. There are plenty of fireworks still ahead. What time is it? It's 6 o'clock. 6. I'll go on a little bit. Question: if this confession of yours stopped right here, your statement will be sound. But fortunately for millions of your victims who will gain their release because of your confession, this interview will continue until you have supplied me with the weapons by which you will eventually be restrained from domination of people through their fears and superstitions. Remember, Your Majesty, your confession has just begun. After I wring from you a description of the method by which you control people, I will force you also to give the formula by which your control can be broken at will. It is true, I shall not remain here long enough to defeat you, but the published word I leave behind will be deathless because it will consist of truth. Your fear of the opposition of no individual because you know it will be short, but you do fear truth. You fear truth and nothing else, for the reason it is slowly but definitely giving human beings freedom from the all manner of fear. Without the weapons you fear would be helpless and entirely unable to control any human being. Is this true or false? It is true, I shall not remain here long enough to defeat you, but the published word I leave behind will be deathless because it consists of truth. Indeed, Hill passed away in 1970, and this work, being published in 2011, becomes deathless. I have no alternative but to admit that what you say is true. Question: now that we understand each other, let's go ahead with your confession. But before we continue, I may as well take time out to do a little boasting of my own account. Now that you have had your fling at it, I will confine myself to one question, the answer to which will give me all the satisfaction I want. It is not true that you control only the minds of those who have allowed the drifting habits to be fixed upon them. Answer: yes, that is true. I have already admitted this truth in a dozen or more different ways. Why do you tantalize me by repeating the question? Question: There is power in repetition. I am forcing you to repeat the highlights of your confession in as many different ways as possible. So your victims may check this interview and determine it's soundless by your own experiences with you. That is one of my little tricks. Do you approve of my methods? Answer. You couldn't be setting a trap for me for the purpose of doing some more boasting, could you? Question. I am asking the questions and you are doing the answering. Go ahead now and confess why you are powerless to stop me from forcing this confession from you. I want your confession for aid and comfort to victim of yours whom I intend to release from the control of the moment from the moment they read your confession. Answer. I am powerless to influence or control you because you have found the secret approach to my kingdom. You know that I exist only in the minds of people who have fears. You know that I control only the drifters who neglect to use their own minds. You know that my hell is here on earth and not in no world that comes after death. You know also that drifters supply all the fire I use in my hell. You know that I am a principle, a form of energy which expresses the negative side of matter and energy. And that I am not a person with a forked tongue and a spiked tail. You have become my master because you have mastered all of your fears. Lastly, you know that you can release all of my earthbound victims whom you contact. And this definite knowledge is the blow which you will deal me the greatest damage. I cannot control you because you have discovered your own mind and you have taken charge of it. There now, Mr. Earthbound, that confession should feed your vanity to the bursting point. Says the devil, I cannot control you because you have discovered your own mind and you have taken charge of it. This definite knowledge is the blow with which you will deal me the greatest damage. When a person has control of their own minds, their own decisions, their own way of thinking, you are taking control of your own life. You're dispelling the fears that has been placed in your life. You are letting go this dark negative matter that is consuming your energy, that is hurting your health. When you know who you are of light. You're not of darkness. You balance these energies. You be thankful for these energies who came into your life. I'm going to finish this last question. Question. The last dart was unnecessary. Knowledge of the sort I have used to master you does not contaminate itself with vulgar indulgence and vanity. Truth is the one and only thing in the world that can stand ridicule. Now let us continue with your confession. What is wrong with the principle of flattery? You use it, do you not? Answer. Do I use it? Man alive, flattery is one of the most useful weapons with this deadly instrument. I slay the big ones and the little ones. Question. Your admission interests me. Go ahead now and tell me how you make us flattery. Answer. I make use of it in so many ways. It is difficult to know where to begin. I warn you before I answer in detail that publishing my answers will bring down the avalanche of ridicule on your head for bringing up the question. Question. I will take the responsibility. Proceed. Answer. Well, I may as well here admit that you have stumbled into major secrets of how I convert people to the habit of drifting. And with that, I'm going to end, and I will continue in the next live. Namaste.